Welcome to Geek Philosophy, where we love geeky wisdom. If you're new to the channel, my name's Brian. No, really, it's me. See, here's the thing. I've been wearing a belt of dwarven kind for years, and no matter how many times I shaved, I always ended up with a beard in the morning. But I recently sold the belt, so this morning, no beard. And that got me thinking, I should do a video about attunement. You know, attuning to magic items in 5th edition D&D. So I want to share some of my own geek philosophy about how attunement can actually enhance role-playing and add to the storytelling experience for everybody at the table. All while your character gets some really cool magical stuff. If you're interested in a belt of dwarven kind, I know a guy. But let's talk about attunement in general. What is attunement in D&D 5e? Well, it's a special bond between a character and certain magical items that unlock their full potential. Each character can be attuned to up to 3 items at a time, which the intent was to keep the game balanced and prevent people from becoming too powerful early on in the game. I'm not sure if that works that way, but you know, that's the intent at least. Now, not all magical items need attunement. Simple items like potions and scrolls and many common weapons can be used just about by anybody without a special bond to that item. For example, you don't need to attune to a potion of healing or a scroll of fireball to use those. Now, in the early days of D&D, you could use pretty much all magical items without any real restrictions. It was sort of like a free-for-all. There were a few exceptions to that rule, but later on in 3rd and 4th editions, the games used almost like a slot system where items were equipped to specific body slots, and this is how you can control how many items you could use at once, and again, attempted to keep the game balanced. Then in 5th edition, attunement was used to create a deeper connection between characters and their magic items, beyond just the game mechanics involved. Like I said, it makes sure that powerful items are balanced by requiring those players to choose carefully and form a bond with their items because you only get 3 items that you can attune with. Well, how does this actually work though? In 5th edition, attuning to a magic item means that you're forming a special bond with it to unlock the powers of that magic item. So for items that require attunement, and it's not just enough to wear or use the item, you need to create a mystical connection with it. But before a character can attune to an item, they have to meet any requirements that the item has, and you'd have to look at the magic item itself to see if any of those exist. Well, the DM would check that before they provide it to you in the game. Now, this could mean that you have to belong to a specific class, meaning you have to be a wizard to use a wand that only a wizard could use. Makes sense. But to attune to the item, you have to spend at least a short rest mechanically, so about an hour, focusing only on that item. And this might mean that you're practicing with the weapon, or meditating on some type of wondrous item, or doing other activities that are related specifically to that magic item. The character has to keep physical contact with the item during this short rest, and any interruption cancels the attunement. And if you successfully take that time during that rest without it being interrupted, your character learns how to use the item's magical properties, including any commands that it needs to activate the item. Now, like I said before, you can only be attuned to 3 items at a time. So trying to attune to a 4th item will fail, unless you first stop being attuned to another item, like I did with my belt. I'm not going to tell you what my 3rd one is now, because that would mean, you know, people would be after it. Also, a character can't be attuned to more than one of the same type of item, like only 1 ring of protection at a time. You can't have 3 of those or anything, or even 2 of those. Now, yes, it does keep things balanced a little bit, but it also helps players choose their magical gear wisely. Now, characters can end attunement to an item in a bunch of different ways. First and foremost, though, if you don't meet the requirements anymore, then you're no longer attuned to that item. So, for example, if there was an item that required you to be of good alignment, and for some reason you got another curse put on you that, you know, made you evil, well, you won't be attuned to those other items that required good alignment. But also, if you become separated from that item more than 100 feet away from that item for over 24 hours, no longer attuned. Or if the character dies, then, you know, they're not attuned anymore because they're not alive. Or, and this is interesting to me, if someone else attunes to the item. More on that one shortly. But a character can just choose to end attunement after another short rest. So you take a rest and you're like, I don't want that belt of dwarven kind anymore. And, you know, you can just get rid of it. Unless the item is cursed. And then that could be a whole adventure in itself with a set of rules and traditions and lore around how to get rid of that cursed item. Interesting. I also want to mention that there is a spell in the game called Identify, if you aren't familiar with it, that can be really helpful for understanding magical items, especially those that need attunement. Casting Identify lets players learn an item's properties, how to use it, and any conditions for its use. So this can be really important for attunement and help characters handle unknown magical items a little more carefully. But I want to engage with this whole concept of attunement from an in-game perspective. Think of the requirements and the restrictions for attunement in an in-game way. For example, imagine a sword that only paladins of Pelor can wield because it was made from the armor of his first champion. And this could lead to a great storyline where a character who isn't originally a paladin of Pelor but really likes that sword has to go through trials or personal changes to align with Pelor's beliefs. And they may have to prove their faith, get blessings from a high priest or something, or go on a pilgrimage to a sacred place of Pelor. And this adds depth to the character's story, and it enriches the game's mythology, and integrates the personal growth with the larger world events, if you set it up right. And this could create some conflict within the party, especially if someone needs to use a specific item in order to overcome a big overarching challenge that's been presented to them. And it could raise questions like, should the party help their, companion attune to this? Or if other party members disagrees with the character's beliefs or the methods or whatever's going on, this could be an interesting challenge. Oh, and who gets to attune to the item? It could also introduce a bunch of moral dilemmas for the character themselves. What if the character learns that attuning to the sword requires the sacrifice that they're not willing to make? Or what if the sword's previous owner's spirit demands something in return? There are a bunch of different dilemmas. I'm just throwing out some. You could have fun with all this stuff. But my point is, make it part of the story. And it doesn't have to be for every item that requires attunement, but thinking of it in a story perspective at least makes attunement meaningful. So framing things in this way challenge the character's values and motivations, and it provides depth to the game, and it makes each session more engaging. And I think by framing attunement requirements and restrictions within the game world, the Dungeon Master can help develop in-game explanations for the requirements that they're putting forth. They also push characters to reflect on the decisions that they make over time, and it evolves the personality of the characters and the values that they use to interact with the world. Now, I also think the attunement process can be used as a way to initiate dialogue between the character and the item. For example, during a short rest that you need for attunement, the sorcerer that's trying to bond with some type of staff that was used by a legendary mage might hear whispers of arcane secrets. And players can describe how their characters engage with the item themselves. Maybe the sorcerer enters a trance, and this connection can reveal hidden aspects of the item's history or even unlock new abilities. But we can also think of the 3-item limit. This could be a narrative element as well, and it could reflect the character's mental and spiritual capacity to attune with powerful items. Characters might struggle when choosing which items to attune to, especially if they have sentimental value or unique powers. Now, there may be a cleric in the party who has to choose between this healing amulet that they were given very early on by a former mentor and a cloak of protection that they found during an adventure. And the choice like this might lead to dramatic moments in the story, and it reveals the character's shifting priorities and values and create tension within the party, possibly. Now, ending attunement can be as significant as starting one, especially when the item has been a part of the character's identity for so long, such as a belt of dwarven kind. So you could imagine a scene where a warrior has to break their connection with a cursed sword that has saved them many times, but at a personal cost. And the decision can be played out as a powerful ritual or heartbreaking farewell that they're giving to this blade, that even though they shouldn't love it, they do. And either way, it offers a moment of character growth and transformation. Speaking of ending attunement, let me introduce you to an option that you might find interesting in your game: the Attunement Contest. This is a homebrew process that adds a little bit of a competitive twist to attuning to magical items. Picture this scene. After a prolonged battle, your party's sorcerer, Arya, discovers an unconscious enemy clutching a staff of power. Now, the wizard that she finds unconscious and clutching this staff is still attuned to it. He's not dead yet. and the group decides to take the wizard prisoner, so he won't be 100 feet away from the staff. So even removing it from his possession isn't necessarily breaking attunement. Enter the attunement contest. Step 1. Check eligibility. Now, both Arya and the unconscious wizard meet their attunement prerequisites for the Staff of Power, which demands the ability to cast high-level spells. Step 2 is the contest. Arya decides to attempt an attunement contest. Given the staff's nature, this contest involves an intelligence or arcana check. So Arya and the unconscious wizard, which would be rolled by the DM in this case, compete in their mastery over the arcane focus to gain control over the staff. And maybe the DM will decide that the wizard is going to be rolling with disadvantage because they're unconscious. But that's up to you. The mind works in mysterious ways. That leads us to step 3, the outcome. If Arya wins this contested roll, she breaks the attunement link between the staff and its current owner, and can start attuning to it during her next short rest. Now, if the wizard wins, the staff remains loyal to him. Arya can't attempt another attunement contest for this staff until conditions change. Either the wizard wakes up, or relinquishes the item, or whatever it may be. If it's a tie, the Staff of Power maintains its bond with the unconscious wizard, potentially leading to another attempt by Arya or a different resolution depending on how events unfold. You can kind of play with this how you like. Now, you could also use this attunement contest for situations where multiple players in the same group want the same magic item, and they've both found it or all found it, and they have to decide who should get it. Well, you could have an attunement contest to figure it out. Now, that's up to you and your table. If everybody's cool with it, then great. If not, then you can work it out in whatever means you normally would work out things like that. But hey, these are just a few of my thoughts. I'm sure you have your own. Let me know in the comments below if you've used attunement to enhance your own D&D adventures. And if you found this video useful, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of our other content. It's completely free and it really does help the channel. Alright, well, thanks for watching and letting me share a little of my own geek philosophy about attuning to magic items in D&D. And I'd like to leave you with an appropriate quote from Gandalf himself. "He that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom." Cheers.